Hi everyone, welcome to another Port Jackson Securities webinar. I am your webinar host, Caitlin Chung, and today we are joined by the CEO of DigitalX, Lisa Wade. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
What we'll do today is Lisa's going to go through a presentation and then we will take questions from the floor. So feel free to pop in your questions to the questions section during the presentations, and then we will address that after. Well, I'll hand it off to you, Lisa.
Great, thank you. And we have the lovely Liz, who's our head of marketing, driving the slides today. So I'll have to ask for the next slide to go through, please. But firstly, I wanted to say to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of which I'm sitting, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and elders past, present and future. And acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. So let's get cracking, shall we? So firstly, what I wanted to do today was just give you a little introduction, overview of DigitalX and who we are in the world and what we're about. Then I thought I'd review the quarter, go through a little bit of detail in each of our businesses, DigitalX Asset Management, Product Development, which is Sell My Shares, and Drawbridge. And excitingly go through our strategic update, because since joining in February, me and the leadership team have been very busy refreshing the strategy. And I call it a strategy refresh because one of the reasons why I took the role at DigitalX was because there were so many foundationally great parts to the business. And I was super excited to come in from National Australia Bank, and really what I saw was we had these really three powerful strategic pillars, and what myself and the management team have done is laid two new foundational layers around data and around innovation. So we'll talk about that. I'm people who know me know that I in Web3 we call it OG, which is a pioneer of environmental, social and governance investing. And I'm not only passionate about ESG, I believe it is a core capability of businesses that will survive the future. And so I'm super excited to go through all our initiatives, which when we look back in time and we look at DigitalX, I think we will be successful and authentically a sustainable company from the inside out. One of the most exciting things I've done, Liz, you can go to the next slide while I finish this story. But one of the most exciting things I've done since joining DigitalX was I'm a big fan of corporates being successful who have a purpose. And one of the things I saw in DigitalX before I joined was there was like this purpose that was waiting to burst out of this company with all of the great people. And so we did this whole exercise around what is our purpose as an organization. And without any prompting for me, our team came up with the purpose of finance for impact. Now that can have many meanings. And one of the things that we really want to do is we are the builders of Web3. We are, we've got different parts of the business like funds management, but at the heart of it, what we're doing is we're building new financial rails and new financial infrastructure for the future. And our team, what they really want to do is to be able to deliver value to shareholders and be impactful in that way. And they also want to deliver financially impactful tools to the world that people can use to make finance cheaper, smarter and faster for everybody. And I believe that we'll be very profitable doing that. So Liz, could you go to the next slide, please? Great. So this is just a little overview of DigitalX, who we are and what the businesses look like. And I've spoken to you about our purpose, which is finance. And our vision for all of this is hang on, I just need to move something. I do know it off by heart, but there's something blocking my screen, is a more open, transparent and efficient world through blockchain technology. You'll notice that hasn't really changed. As an organization, we operate at the intersection of finance and technology, and that's sort of become quite a popular catchphrase. But as I'll use that term again, OGs, we are the OG, listed Australian company that we have Bitcoin on our balance sheet from, our history, and moving into the future, we'll be, we believe that the rails on which things like Bitcoin have created will be the financial rails of the future. And we believe that will create a more open, transparent and efficient world. Finance is everything. I have this little, sort of catchphrase myself, that money is the oxygen that funds all of the good and all of the bad. And what we are going to be very good at as a business is moving money, investing money, and building new kinds of money like stable coins, which you'll see in the quarterly we seeded XAUD. And you'll also see some work we're doing with the Digital Finance CRC in conjunction with the Australian government, continuing my National Australia Bank work on Project Atom into a central bank digital currency project. And we'll hear more about that later. Our mission, and you know, our mission is so important to us. As I said, we've got this great team of people. The branding company that you know, nicknamed our team the Imagineers, and I wholeheartedly believe that. You know, we've got innovators. Even in our funds team, you know, the way we invest, we're doing new things that don't exist. You know, we're building new things that don't exist today and will exist in the future. Our mission is to empower the Web3 community by providing financial access, freedom, and enabling a network of good. And you know, we wholeheartedly believe that. As I said, money is the oxygen, and we want to empower the movement of money by, you know, we'll go through a little bit more detail, but you know, we're talking about on-ramps of, you know, educating people about Web3. What does Web3 even mean? I mean, there might be people on this call that are going to ask me at the end of this session, what is Web3? And we'll go into a little bit more detail about that. Who are our customers? Investors and corporates, right? But, you know, we are a very unique business. We've got Sell My Shares, which is a retail share trading platform. It also can be a wholesale share trading platform, because via Drawbridge, we have a RegTech tool which allows us to interact with listed company shareholders so that they can transact via Sell My Shares to move around their money from working in listed companies, at the same time as doing that with transparency for their management, and so to protect them from insider trading. But really that gives us this retail wholesale aspect, which is quite unusual. And then we have the DigitalX funds business, which, you know, a lot of my career has been spent in funds management. So I'm particularly excited about that part of the business. And obviously it's been a rough ride. You know, the markets have been terrible for everybody, and we weren't immune to that. So we'll go through that in a little bit more detail about what we've got planned in the strategy for that. Another thing, and then we'll move to the next slide, it really is, you know, we have really amazing values, and we live those values. So our values are support the network, never stop developing, execute your part, build trust with transparency, seek consensus, and solving hard problems is worth the effort. And we live and breathe those values every day. And you know, we have lots of things we do to bring those from a page out into the world, and we can talk about them a little bit more, and feel free to ask questions as we go through. So Liz, could you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so as I've alluded to, the quarter in review, we updated our long-term strategy and presented to the board how we want to maximize revenue growth. Like, it doesn't matter if I don't say it every single second. Every single morning when I wake up, the first thing I think about is how I can increase shareholder value, and how we can do right and the best by DigitalX shareholders. They're absolutely my North Star. I passionately believe that successful companies lead by a purpose, and they lead by their people. We have our purpose, finance for impact. Everybody who comes into the company is looking to be impactful for our shareholders. Now, when we talk about our people, there's really a few parts to that. Firstly, there's shareholders, you, and that is the heart of everything we do. Then there's our customers, and you know, building out that customer strategy is a hugely important part of what we're doing. And then there's the people that we work with, our team. And I believe that, you know, treating people with respect and having respectful teams, and really making sure that the shareholders, customers, and our team are looked after is what are the foundations that make the foundations of a successful company. And that's a huge focus for us, for me and my leadership team. Again, you can't have a business if you don't have revenue. So our 5 strategic initiatives are all around growing revenue, and we'll go into those in a little bit more detail later. You know, in a really tough time for the funds business, we did start to get some traction from the newly acquired Sell My Shares business. So although our share price was very volatile during the massive sell-off, Where I don't think the market has understood this company is that Sell My Shares is a newly acquired business, and although technically our balance sheet lost value with the Bitcoin fluctuation, as did the value in the funds business, we actually increased Sell My Shares revenue by 15.9% from increase from the previous quarter. And in fact, in the darkest hours, June was the record month for Sell My Shares since we had acquired the company. So even though obviously we were impacted negatively by financial markets, and we're not underplaying that, we still were able to have, a really great moment inside the business to keep morale up, that we have, a defensive part of our business in Sell My Shares. So I was super excited about that. Another really cool thing was to be a finalist in the Finnies, or the FinTech Australia Awards. What a huge achievement. Like, the people that we're up against are amazing. They're companies that, I've admired and follow closely, very, very closely in my career, like Raise, one in the funds category. I built their ESG portfolio. So watch this space for DigitalX to be emerging and, a contender for next year with some of the new things that are coming through that I'm bringing in, and the team is bringing in. And then the second part, the other winner was the technology company that we use to onboard clients into Sell My Shares. So we're all over it, because Frankie One beat us in the Drawbridge category. However, we use them anyway. So when we talk about supporting the network, that's how much we believe in that. We actually use other Australian fintechs when we can in developing our projects. So Sell My Shares is a big focus for us, obviously, to keep the revenue pumping, and we're in the final stages. And in fact, we are launching a new platform for Sell My Shares, which, if you do want to make any one-off share trades, you can go on and check that out. And another big thing for us was, in the Drawbridge world, was submitting the Business Research and Innovation Initiative grant application for a RegTech feasibility study. And I have to say, this sounds really boring, but a career highlight for me, and this is the 30th year of my career, so I've had a few. The career highlight for me this quarter was when we presented the RegTech project to what I thought was ASIC. I looked on the meeting invite and there were 58 people on the call. They were regulators. I grant you that doesn't sound exciting, but they were all from all around the world. And for some reason, I was a little bit starstruck because the SEC were on the call. And to me, that's like, everything we read about crypto regulation, which we're all over, and we can talk about that a bit later, to actually be on a call with the SEC and presenting an innovation that people, our team, like that we work with, actually built from nothing and created something into this world that didn't exist before, presenting it to 58 regulators around the world. I not only thought that was hugely exciting for DigitalX, I thought it was really exciting for Australia as well, that, we've got lots of great innovation here. As a country, I think we're in a perfect position to really come up with great ideas and be profitable doing that. And I am excited to be at a company like DigitalX that is front and center of that, and then showcasing Australia to the world with the SEC in the room. Pretty huge moment for me. And for that, we have applied for a $1 million grant, and I don't want the share price to live or die on that. That will be very exciting if we won, because we can continue that piece of work. However, that is a separate piece of work, and Drawbridge will be successful no matter what happens with that application, because the tools that we're building will be essential on-ramps for corporates in this new Web3 world that we're talking about. So Liz, maybe jump onto the next slide, because even I'm dying to give everybody a definition of Web3 very quickly. So I thought we'd just quickly run through the funds management business, and obviously, we're excited to get nominated for the Excellence in Wealth Management Award. What we do, we are a long-only fund in a hugely volatile market. And we were impacted by that. But what we held true to was we do the work. We research each token that we invest in. We understand the market, and we never stop doing the work. And although the portfolio had, lost value, we didn't actually get caught up in any of the underlying fundamental issues that there were with the market. Every token that we hold still exists. because we did the work. We identify, I'm a little bit tired of talking about Luna, but there's an elephant in the room because, Luna caused a whole lot of follow-on contagion, and there were a whole lot of bankruptcies in the sector because of what happened in Luna, and it was a little bit like a domino effect. None of the companies that we held in our portfolio, other than being sold off because of the liquidations that happened, none of them were, critically wounded. They were battered and beaten. However, all of the tokens that we hold in our portfolio are the builders of the future. They are the financial infrastructure, the rails of the future. Bitcoin is the use cases for Bitcoin, even in the darkest hours. People like Gucci and we're making announcements about Bitcoin. I know Tesla sold a whole lot of their Bitcoin, but they still have 25% of that on their balance sheet. I genuinely believe that every corporate in Australia will need to know how to manage Bitcoin in 10 years' time, just as we know how to manage it, because we are the only listed Australian company that has that Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So I'm very proud of our funds management team. In my career, I've never seen such difficult conditions, and we soldiered on, we did the work, we're doing the work, and I genuinely believe that we're getting some investment opportunities right now where we're able to invest in at very good levels, invest in companies and tokens and people that are building the financial infrastructure of the future. And what I mean by that is just think of the gold rush and the picks and shovels, and you're right there. So the picks and the shovels of the new financial infrastructure. So next slide, please, Liz. And so now we get to our product development arm and our two stars of this division, and there is a lot of great work going on in there. Is Sell My Shares and Drawbridge. And Drawbridge is something people that didn't exist 2 years ago. It was created by an Australian company, which is DigitalX, from nothing, and it is the first project to be launched in conjunction with the Australian Stock Exchange and use the new Symphony platform. And we're hugely proud of that partnership that we have with the Australian Stock Exchange, and we'll be working on expanding that and expanding the use cases for Drawbridge. Now, just to give you, Drawbridge is in the very nascent stages of development. We bought Sell My Shares because we came to realize that, we started to look at Drawbridge differently as like a portal for apps for company treasurers to be able to understand and use Web3. And the insider trading tool is the very first tool that can sit in there, but Drawbridge will be like a toolbox for corporate treasurers in the future. Now, we don't believe that we can charge a great deal of money for renting out that toolbox, but what we can do is monetize it in different parts of the value chain. So today, if you're a Drawbridge user and you work for a company, Drawbridge protects you by not allowing to sell your shares during a blackout period. And protects the company, because we all know what happens if employees are accused of insider trading. It's very damaging for shareholders. So it protects the shareholders. And then we monetize it by plugging into the Sell My Shares platform, which actually is a great little business in and of itself. So we're building Sell My Shares, we're updating it, we're upgrading it, we're using our dev team to bring their magic in. The Imagineers are working hard inside of Sell My Shares, and actually we're getting a lot of revenue uplift from doing that. And in the quarterly and the strategy, I'll go through some new innovations around that. So if we could skip to the next slide, that would be wonderful. So this gets to where I spent a lot of my time during the quarter, and obviously adjusting to my new role and getting to know the team, and lots of trips to Perth. I'm there once a month, but really is this strategy refresh, and the board wholeheartedly endorsed this strategy, and really that was an epitome of, we did the work as a leadership team. Shareholders are our focus. We are 100% focused on increasing shareholder value. I just want to share that lots of my friends have invested in DigitalX because this is a great story. And as a leader of this business, I wholeheartedly believe that this strategy is going to increase shareholder value. So what we're doing is we're focusing on revenue initiatives. And let me just be clear, as a business, our focus is operational excellence. Like when you look at our company, you need to understand that we value and believe in operational excellence, and that is what you will be seeing from us. It starts with looking after our shareholders, it starts with looking after our people, and it starts with looking after our customers, and it flowers out from there. sorry, Liz, the slides, yep. So inside of the revenue initiatives, and the way I describe this strategy is moving fast and slow. So the fast lane is growing revenue. So we're working on accelerating the Sell My Shares product to develop new product and new revenue streams. We've identified 2 particular areas that we feel we can really move the needle, and I'll go through that in the next slide. Then one thing we've done is a lot of people are asking me questions about the balance sheet and hedging policies on the balance sheet. We never have traditionally had a hedging policy on the balance sheet, and that is one of the things that I'm bringing to the table as a personal crusade in taking this role, is we actively manage our balance sheet via our investments in the funds, so we do put the capital to work, and it's for me it's around innovating and creating new ways to do that. So excitedly, with this amazing development team of Imagineers we've actually built a data validation node, starting with validating F, which is the largest opportunity, and that will filter down into our asset management business. And I don't want to get too geeky about data and the data pillar and how we do all of that, but rest assured that in the new world of real world asset tokenization, which is a huge thematic that we'll go through that underpins our revenue tailwind, data and data validation is a hugely important function. And we will be, as a treasury, as a business, that will be a strength of ours, and we will lead the world in data validation and building that muscle, because we already have the Bitcoin on our balance sheet. So we're actively putting that to work by creating staking nodes. Then the third way to accelerate revenue is this leveraging of Drawbridge and really looking at it as the gateway for Web3. Now, some of those projects will be take a little bit longer. What are we doing in the short term? We're bringing in more salespeople to sell Drawbridge to, the companies that are already listed and already ready, willing, and able to use our tools, just because the pain point of insider trading and staff share sales is so great and so not managed at all. We think a huge opportunity in and of itself, and that's just really improving our sales function and really pounding the pavement, getting that story out there. In the funds business, we are launching a real world asset tokenization fund, and that really plays into this data piece. And inside of Sell My Shares, one of the revenue opportunities is T+0, and so we need to fund that 2-day time gap, and we're using that as an example of how we can tokenize real world assets and invest in them through the fund. So all of these pieces fit together. And what you will see in all of these, and I hope that's jumping out of the page at you, is this integration of the strategy across the businesses rather than having siloed businesses. Is how do we maximize every business by leveraging all the other businesses and having this virtuous circle, which is our flywheel of our strategy. The next part is this really supporting the network. It's venture investments and incubation. So we've always had ventures. Our balance sheet not only has Bitcoin, we also have holdings in Bamboo from work we did for them. We own Human Protocol from work we did for them. And we own an asset tokenization, real world asset tokenization business called XBullion that already tokenizes commodities. So via our venture investments, we're already authentic to our support the network. And one of the things I'm super passionate about is really amplifying that and supporting Australian companies and creating an opportunity for investors in a listed Australian company, also known as DigitalX, to get exposure to Australian ventures by supporting the ecosystem via us. And that's another way to put our balance sheet to work. So you'll see a lot more venture investments from us. And the strategy is quite simple: build or buy. We have this 5-year roadmap that we've just built for this business, which is a unique digital roadmap that I believe, is quite unique to any company in the world, and I'm super excited by it. And we can either build internally or we can buy ventures that we feel fit into that and support these companies in Australia that are building these financial rails. Like, we are incubating new global investment opportunities and hopefully new listed companies in Australia as well, so that our shareholders can not only benefit, but our shareholders can also be part of the conversation in growing Australia and making Australia a great technology destination. And then, as I've alluded to, underpinning this strategy is our core ESG focus. and cost consciousness. And I don't think a great company has ever been run by the CEO not focusing on costs. You know, I think I used to whinge about this a little bit when I worked at NAB, and sorry if Ross McEwen is watching this, but one of the pages out of the Ross McEwen playbook is really this huge focus on costs and making sure, you know, my CFO and I joke around because we're like, oh my God, like it's like we're spending our own money. Like we genuinely look at the shareholder dollars as though it was our own money, and we genuinely are conscious of costs. We want to grow the business. We want to, you know, really, you know, there's this finessing between growing revenue and, you know, cutting costs. So it's cost consciousness. It's like no dollar leaves the door unless it's attributed to being able to increase our revenue line. It's just an internal mantra. And, you know, our CFO, Jonathan Carley, and I are super focused on that. Next slide, please, Liz. And so I did want to showcase a cool thing that we did, and I'm very proud of this. Those who know me know that during COVID, I did a little bit of time helping, you know, we all got locked in our houses, right? Whilst I was at National Australia Bank, I had a project called Impactio that was never invested in by National Australia Bank, but it was actually an idea that was created from me being at a hackathon with the World Wildlife Fund for Nature and Consensus. And Impactio is an impact investing blockchain platform, and that's how passionate I am about the environment. And through that, we always used to joke about a koala token to raise money. And flash forward to working at DigitalX and my amazing head of marketing, Liz. You know, we all had to go, well, Dave, my CPO, and I had to go to Austin for a conference, and just didn't sit right with me, all of the functions and all of the events that were going on over there in the name of Bitcoin. And we can talk about the cool innovation that we've done around our Bitcoin on the balance sheet. But in and of itself, I was like, what can we do to make this whole conference better? I had been advising in my former life as the OG of carbon tokenization in Carbon Place, or Project Carbon as we called it back then. I'm mentoring a company called Metacarbon that does carbon NFTs. And Liz was like, why don't we do koala tokens? So here you go. We actually, off the smell of an oily rag, and very generously by the CEO of Metacarbon, like we bootstrapped a koala NFT. You can actually buy these now for 25 bucks every time you want to offset some emissions. But genuinely, the money for these tokens was used to plant trees in Australia and also to support, so it's a social impact token as well. Actually, the money physically got given to the Port Macquarie Koala Rescue organisation, and this is a genuine move into ESG. Now, we have done some other things that didn't happen in this quarter, and rest assured that our board is fully supportive of us acknowledging and recognising the carbon emissions that we have as a business. And in our strategic initiatives, we aim to be top 10 in the world, and I actually want to be the best at this, of corporate treasurers who understand their carbon emissions, understand how to deal with them, and lead the way in changing behaviour. You know, yes, we can offset our carbon. However, we need to change our corporate behaviour, and the whole world needs to change. It is 23 degrees in August. I'm not going to give you a lecture about climate change, but this is a genuine initiative from the senior management of this company. Now, I get lots of questions, so I'm going to preempt this one about the Bitcoin we have on the balance sheet. Guess what the Imagineers did this quarter? We calculated from day dot what the carbon emissions of those Bitcoin were, and we tracked and traced it, and we identified the effective liability that we felt we had as an organization for owning those Bitcoins. And we're going to do some really cool things that I can't go into specific details about, but rest assured, I know exactly where each one of those Bitcoin came from. I know the carbon emissions from them, and as a business, what you'll see from us is a lot of you know, ways we operate as a business to uplift that carbon liability that I consider we have, and make that something that we not only do for ourselves, but we'll share the knowledge with other global corporations. Like, you know, everybody's talking about carbon now, and there's a great quote: when all is said and done, more is said than done. And we are the doers, we are the builders, we are the Imagineers. We are actually in there authentically looking at our impact on the world, wanting to have a positive impact and delivering shareholder value at the same time. So I think the next slide is questions, unless I'm mistaken. Oh, my outlook statement. How can I forget that? My goodness. So how am I seeing the world? Well, yeah, it's been a tough time in all of my career in financial markets. I mean, those who know me know that's gone from Citigroup to managing money for the Smorgons family in Melbourne, to Bendigo Bank, to, you know, 2 of my own funds, that one was sold to Westpac, the other one to an offshore company. Hardest conditions I've ever seen, and that includes the GFC. And I started my career in the middle of a recession at Stedler Pens and Pencils in DY, because I had to work as a manufacturing accountant. So I've seen some downturns. And obviously the way the crypto markets unraveled was extremely stressful and extremely difficult for our team to watch, and difficult for the whole industry. However, we are starting to see some green shoots through the permafrost. And, you know, I was never a fan of saying that Bitcoin or crypto are an inflation hedge, and the market has told the story walking with that. Like, we're very correlated to global markets right now. We're very macro focused as a team. I believe there's an opportunity to close the gap. So if you look at the performance of our fund and the performance of traditional markets, I do think there's sort of a circa 30% outperformance that can happen on us playing catch up, now that people have more trust in the industry. And we've had that flush out of the really bad behavior. You know, like in DeFi, there was bankruptcies for a reason. People were over leveraged. You put humans in a room and you put leverage in a room, and humans will over leverage every single time until something bad happens, and that something bad happened. We weren't affected by it because we didn't do business with any of those companies, because we have such stringent criteria. However, the markets were impacted, therefore we were impacted. So I'm really proud of this narrative around us being a safe pair of hands for people who do want to invest in crypto. You know, I do think it's something to leave to the experts, and we've got you know, some experts in the room. And you know, I'm building the team. I'm really excited about the team building. There'll be some exciting announcements coming out. So watch that space. And, you know, sell my shares. I've talked about some of the initiatives that we're doing. I'm hugely excited about that business. I started my career as a stockbroker, after Stedler Pens and Pencils, but I usually don't admit to that. But I did start my career in stockbroking, and, you know, that there are a lot of huge things we can do with T0 and the other growth initiatives we have in Sell My Shares. And, you know, the most exciting thing, and the thing I want you to take away from this, and where I'm going to land, is, you know, our leadership team got together. We were a new team. We worked really hard, and we created this amazing strategy. You can see in the background there sort of a picture of a space mountain. The internal narrative is, this is the mountain we're climbing. We want DigitalX to be a great Australian company. We believe we can be, you know, be part of meaningful conversations in the Australian financial infrastructure ecosystem build. We're contributing to be part of something bigger than ourselves in the CRC, working with ASIC, working with the ASX, you know, making all of this talk come to reality. We are the doers, we are the builders, and I'm hugely excited that the board approved the strategy refresh, and that's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on this finishing line of using that strategy to maximize shareholder value and deliver that. So what I'm looking for in this quarter is an exciting quarter where you can see a lot of positive news flow from us, and really rebuilding and rewriting the history of DigitalX into this great company that it can be. And I'm very excited about that, and I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was really great. I know a lot about the crypto side of DigitalX, but I didn't actually know about Drawbridge and Sell My Shares. So, and I think that's the case with a lot of our audience. So it was really great to find out more about that. So let's jump into questions. For those that came in late, feel free to pop in questions for Lisa, but I will get started. So can you please give us, tell us more about Web3? Because I think a lot of us watching, yeah, what is it exactly?
Yeah, well, I was hoping that you reminded me, meant to go through that in a little more detail. So thank you for that question. So look, this is, I think, the easiest way I understand Web3, and take it or leave it, because there'll be other, you know, geeky presentations about it. And then I want to talk about Web5 too, just to blow everybody's mind. And I know that my now comms people are cringing because they're like, keep it simple, but you guys can handle it, come on. So the way I look at it is, Web 1 was, you know, when I started my career, email like wasn't really even a thing, right? So Web 1 was us starting to communicate with each other over this thing called the internet, sending emails, doing things. Web 2 was me sitting on my couch, online shopping and payment rails being embedded. And we've seen the success of PayPal. Elon Musk is a billionaire. You know, he made $1 billion before he started Tesla, yeah, and that was in PayPal. So that, and Jeff Bezos, richest man in the world, that is, you know, Amazon didn't make money for many years. Amazon rewrote the way people value companies because they lost money for so long. And that that's now $1 trillion company. He's the richest man in the world. There was a point in time when even I, as a shareholder, didn't understand that company. So Web 2 is me shopping from my couch by myself. Web 3 and paying on my credit card. Web 3 is me meeting a friend in the metaverse, so meeting a friend online, going into a digital shopping center, and let's not use Gucci, but Gucci did make an announcement this month, so let's all pretend we can afford Gucci. Walking into Gucci with my friend, trying everything on together, talking to each other, and shopping and using crypto payment rails, whether it be a stable coin or a Bitcoin or whatever that may be. And then there's this fantastic new thing called Web 5, which is Web 2 plus Web 3. Why should you care about Web 5? Because everything, and here's why, because everything I've just described to you, your data gets used when you walk into that Gucci store, yeah? So you're still going into that Gucci store, they're still saying Lisa Wade is in the house. The way Web 5 works is Web 5 allows you to create your own metaverse, and inside of that metaverse, all of the KYC and all of the AML, know your client and anti-money laundering processes are done inside that ecosystem. And the person who's created that ecosystem for you validates your data, and they say, I've seen the driver's license, I've seen the passport, I've seen all of the data. This person is real, and you are allowed to trust my verification. Right now in Australia, that's not legal, by the way. So we've got a journey with regulation. What I'm talking about is the possibility of a future here. Now, just imagine that now, instead of going into the Gucci store and telling them who you are, you can allow Gucci to come into your Web3 world and have a store there, and you can allow your friend to come in. So Gucci never gets your data. Gucci exists in your world because you've invited them in. Now that goes for everything, booking airline tickets, buying shoes, all of the things where all of your data is everywhere right now. Then you own your data and you can control you can be the master of your own metaverse. And to me, that's hugely exciting and empowering for individuals. And that's where this finance for impact piece comes, right? Because if I can build verification tools with Drawbridge that allow me to understand that for Australian corporates, and I can build it in Web 5 and I can give it to you and you can trust that you own your little part of the world, then that's when it starts getting really interesting for consumers and a really exciting shift on how data is used. Because I don't know about you, but I'm really sick of my data getting used at me. Like it completely, I love AI and technology, but it really does freak me out. If I start talking about buying, I can guarantee you there'll be a Gucci ad in my inbox because my Google Home is right there, and I've talked about Gucci 3 times on the call. Like I'm sick and tired of that happening, and that's the type of thing that we could re-empower ourselves to own our own data and not have that happen anymore. Because my Google Home, instead of the app being on my phone out there, the Google Home app will be inside my metaverse world and only in my world and only allowed to use the data as I ask it to, not how it wants to think and overhear what I say. So to me, that's the simplest Web 2, Web 3, Web 5 explanation. I'll just do a quick overview again. Web 1, email. Web 2, paying with a credit card, going shopping by yourself. Web 3, shopping online with your friend in the metaverse, paying in a crypto that's already been onboarded. Web 5 is Web 2 plus 3, and you own your own identity.
And so is regulation for Web 5 on the pipeline in Australia?
Oh, look, there's a lot that needs to be done for KYC and AML, and I don't like to talk about National Australia Bank too much because I respect that organisation so much, but it's so difficult for institutions. Like we did a reconciliation on a project I worked on. There was something like 13 KYC AML projects inside one bank, because even within divisions of the bank, you can't use each other's data, and there's so many rules around it. So globally, I think some countries will get there, and Australia really needs to have a long, hard look, and we need to sort of go back to the drawing board on that one and say that it's okay to share data. And I think the laws that are changing around APIs and things like that, it's okay for if DigitalX is trusted and their process is audited and they give the information once to authorities, then people should be able to use that validation and roll it into other platforms. And I think when you get that will happen. We just don't know how long it will take.
As a shareholder of DCC, I have particular concerns over the lack of pathway to profitability. The company has made quarterly losses for years consecutive. When do you anticipate the company to become profitable?
Yeah, okay. I don't want to run afoul of forward-looking statements and particularly numbers and things like that. I wouldn't have taken this role if I didn't think that there was a great turnaround story here. And what I will say is that is why we're revenue. In our mountain that we're climbing, break even and profitability is on the horizon, and we are very much focused as a team to get there and to deliver profitability for shareholders. And I think what you've seen this quarter and this year is, yeah, we made a loss. However, what we have a sustainable revenue stream, and DigitalX has never had a sustainable revenue stream before. We've always been jumping around trying to find our place in the sun. And I really believe that in this strategy, with everything I spoke to you about, with maximizing sell my shares revenue, new revenue streams, data validation, staking, that is a revenue line that we can grow, and bringing in new products into the funds management business and growing that business despite very difficult market conditions. They are three ways that we can bring in sustainable revenue, which I believe the more sustainable the revenue, the faster we will get to profitability. And I just want people to understand me as a human, steering this ship. I take profitability very seriously. And anyone who was just on my leadership team call 15 minutes ago will know that. And as a team, that is where our priorities lie. Operational excellence for shareholders, and revenue, because on our mountain is break even, then profitability.
What is happening with the court case regarding the Mt. Gox Bitcoin? New reports are that they are releasing a bunch of these through creditors soon. And what is happening with the ex-CEO claiming some of our Bitcoin?
Yeah, so that's another thing that I'm fighting for very hard for shareholders. In the quarterly, it's very difficult when legal cases are live to answer that question fulsomely. What I will say is I am fighting that very hard. We're doing everything we can within the power of the law and taking every legal action we can to make sure that Alex Karras cannot take that money, because it is not, we believe it's shareholders' money, and I take that very seriously, and I can guarantee that I'm fighting with the full force of my nature, because I believe in when I found out about it, I was just like, I cannot believe what the shareholders, like, we really need to just get in there. And we had been doing everything we could. I did a full audit of the process of what had been happening before I started, and it came out like absolutely sparkly that we have done everything we can within the power of the law, and we are using the power of the law to what I believe is to make a right for shareholders. And so it really, if I could say more, I would, but it's very difficult to talk about things like this publicly, being a listed company and with not wanting to flout the law.
We have a really good question here. Can you explain why it makes more sense to invest in DCC rather than just dollar cost average into crypto?
Yeah, well, I think that that comes down to the alpha that we generate as a management team, right? So you can invest in our fund, and also if you invest in DCC shares, you get all of the other things that we're building. You get the venture strategy, you get sell my shares, you get Drawbridge, and you get the benefit of this management team and the Imagineers across all of our business. Like, you're supporting real humans who are building things that don't exist today, bringing them into the world, and we're doing that because we want to make shareholders money. And that is why I would buy DCC shares. In fact, that is why I own DCC shares and will buy as many as I physically can, because that is what you're getting.
Is there a plan to purchase more Bitcoin for the balance sheet, given there has been a serious drop in price of Bitcoin? Does this produce a good buying opportunity?
I think they're two separate questions. So the answer is managing cash flow is obviously something we're taking very seriously. As our revenue increases and as we move to profitability, actively managing our treasury is very much going to be on our radar. And then there is the question of, is this a good buying opportunity in Bitcoin? And I personally think that markets are going to be choppy. But I do think that accumulating Bitcoin in sell-offs is a really wise long-term future decision. I think it's very public that I receive 5% of my salary in Bitcoin, and I don't move that. I look at that just as a human to human. I look at that as forced savings, and then I joke around and say to the team, well, I'm always going to pick the bottom, because if I just keep on accumulating Bitcoin as a savings tool, then I'm always going to be able to say that I call the bottom of Bitcoin. And nobody can predict that. There's a really great quote: the only way to predict the future is to create it yourself. And one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had in my life is being part of financial markets, because nobody ever gets it right. We are in a macro environment that is unprecedented. We've got a recession with the level of inflation that we have. I was thinking about the other morning, I was like, well, I wonder, where this is all going to end up. Like, do we need to redefine some of our economic terms? Because I was in America, as I said, in June, and I came back and I said, there is a recession in America. There will be a recession print. We got it on Thursday, but you could tell just from walking down the street of the mentality for people. And then the inflation piece was, you stand in a queue for 20 minutes to wait for a $10 coffee. The person's rude to you. Then they want a tip. So effectively, you pay like $10 or $12 for a coffee, and for someone to be rude to you. And the mentality there was so sad, and just because. And the air hostess explained it to me on the way home and said, well, everybody's frustrated and annoyed because they can't afford to take their holiday, but they're scared of losing their jobs. And you can really see it over there. People are in pain. And I think that there's just this false reality of, in Australia of, like we're all still fully employed. So everybody's making money, but our money's worthless. So we're actually unable to spend it, and we're less financially empowered than we were. And to me, that's a serious situation that we're in. And markets will be choppy until we see some green shoots on economic growth, I believe.
And previously in your presentation, you were talking about the short-term strategy focus. What about the long-term strategy focus? Let's say, how do you see DCC in 6-7 years' time?
Yeah, I probably should have touched on that, and that it was drawn out more in the quarterly. So what I presented to the board was in a now, next and beyond framework. I guess for today, what I really wanted to say to shareholders is, we're not dreaming about the future and thinking that it's okay to have an annual loss. We're very much wanting to send the message that revenue. However, we have built a roadmap in this now, next and beyond framework. Roughly now, next and beyond is 1, 3 and 5 years. However, it's a little bit more of a fluid time frame, because what we're really doing is I'm in a race against the clock to execute all of these revenue generating ideas as quickly as humanly possible, to bring in revenue to get to profitability as quickly as we can. And in that vision for the future, we're very much seeing ourselves as the builders of the new global digital finance. So what I believe as a human is that in 10 years' time, the infrastructure and the rails of which finance sit upon today will no longer exist. And there will be this new set of financial rails around real world asset tokenization. So there's $256 trillion of real world assets that can be tokenized. In the Citigroup wrote a report in 2017 that said that that is a financial revolution in how portfolio managers can manage their portfolio, because we can democratize and fractionalize and open up investment in a way we never have before. And that's all around geeky terms like capital stacks and how superannuation funds construct their portfolio. What matters here in this conversation now is what I'm talking about, the financial rails. Today you use digital money. The CBDC project is programmable money. My money speaks to my asset. Yesterday, I bought a house and I have a mortgage stack of mortgage papers this much, or I rent anyway. But if I did, I have this. And then in the future, I'll have a token that represents that contract. That smart contract will sit inside a token. So if I want to go on a holiday and I want to release some of the capital that I have in my house, what did I have to do? Yesterday, I had to sell my whole house. Tomorrow, I'll be able to fractionalize the ownership of my house, release some cash, and have some optionality around my financial future. It'll be cheaper, smarter, faster for me to transact. All of those things, that's the vision of DigitalX. We are the people that see that. We are the people that understand that. That's really great. We are also the people that are building that and investing in that building. And that is a 5-year plan, that is a 10-year plan. That is us being a relevant Australian company in the global financial building conversation and being part of that conversation and building tools that are used globally. And that is what we will be known for, as well as our investment strengths and that safe pair of hands. And that is the vision that we have. And that, as I said, now, next and beyond. And beyond, what do we see for DigitalX? I use the term good to great. We're currently a good little company, you know, we're first company in Australia to have Bitcoin on our balance sheet, all of the things. What is a great company? A great company is who DigitalX will be, having products that have sustainable revenues, actually being authentic around caring about the environment, offsetting our emissions, improving our behaviour, you know, being profitable and also being purposeful, and being the builders and the creators and the investors in the new rails of the future. And you'll see a lot of that from us and real life action from the Imagineers.
I'll take one more question and then we will end it here. But okay, maybe 2 more questions. We have a lot coming in. But previously, DCC provided lots of blockchain services. Are there any plans to bring them back?
Oh, look, we can provide blockchain services, and we will if it's strategically important and we're helping people on the journey around building new financial rails. And right now, the development team is focused on, you know, the ASIC work, the work for Drawbridge and Sell My Shares, and just the building the sustainable financial model is more of a focus. So if it was a deal that was financially beneficial to shareholders, absolutely, we work with people. We're talking to people all of the time, and you know, we're very, you know, we've got a lot of knowledge and we're happy to share it in any way that we can. And that's where the ventures strategy really, the rubber really hits the road, because rather than putting dollars in, we can also put time in, which is what we've historically done, and that will not end. And obviously, you know, in the past we've done a lot of work around tokenizing assets for people, and you'll absolutely see that from us. You know, this treasury as a service, this tokenization as a service. What do I see is, like, one of the jewels in our crown is that every single corporate in Australia is going to need to know how to manage their treasury like we do, and we will absolutely be advising them and taking and helping them on that journey as part of our Support the Network.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for your time. I'm sorry that I didn't get through to everyone's questions, but feel free to email me and I can pass them on to Lisa. Thank you for the presentation.
Can I just end by thank you to our shareholders. Crypto has been a rough ride, and I get that. And we're, you know, as I said, you know, we do treat it like it's our own money. We do value our shareholders, and I will 100% commit to answering every question legally, to the fullest answer that I can give. If you send through all of those questions, I will happily take the time to do that. We do value you and value your time for being on this call. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.